Hello and welcome back to World War Whiskey. It's been a while, guys. I've missed you. You probably haven't missed me, but after today's show, we're going to make you miss some bourbon. So let's get into it. I've been busy. I think I'm the only person busy during this time of quarantine and riots and craziness, right? But it dawned on me, when you're too busy to drink bourbon, you got to slow down. You got to slow life down. If I can't come here every week, at least once a week, and drink some bourbon and bring a good show to you guys, then I got to change my priorities in life. I mean, that's just a realization that I've come to. So I know it's been a while, but we're going to get this show up and running again and bring you some good reviews. A couple new ideas I have for you just to try to cut the time down, cut to the chase, and really get a good bourbon in your hands, hopefully for a good price like the two we'll see today. So let's check both these out. So the two bourbons we have for you today are Jim Beam Black, extra aged straight bourbon, and the Wild Turkey 101 straight Kentucky bourbon. Now this is my go-to. I love 101. It's a great bourbon for the price. Both of these can be had for about $25. But if you zoom in here on the Jim Beam, this has the International Wine and Spirits Competition Quality Award for World's Greatest Rated Bourbon. That's a strong claim. Is it true? Probably not. But can it beat Wild Turkey 101? We shall see. All right, so as I said, these are two bourbons that you're going to be able to get for a really good price. I think if you could pick up a bourbon you really like for the $20 to $25 range, sometimes you can even see these on sale for under $20. If I could help you pick which one of those it will be your favorite, that's something that will literally make your life better. So this show tonight can literally make your life better. So let's figure out which one of these is for you. Now, both of these have a pretty similar profile. The mash bill is 77% corn for the Jim Beam and 75% for the 101. The rye profile is both 13%, but 10% malted barley compared to 12% malted barley for the 101. Now, an interesting fact about both of these is, as I said, top-rated Beverage Institute drink here. And the way they did that is they took these very expensive bourbons, $3,000 range bourbons, and did blind taste tests with the public. So I saw an advertisement, a few years back about it being the greatest top-rated bourbon, and I was like, how is that, right? But I had to pick up a bottle. I've been sitting on the bottle for a while, and I decided to look up how they in fact tested it, because was it this, was it this award that went against 5 other bourbons that showed up, and that's why it's the greatest. I wanted to see how they did it. But interestingly enough, they rated it against, very expensive bourbons in a blind taste test, and the public voted for the Jim Beam. Now, my question is this. Sometimes the public is right, and sometimes the public is dead wrong. In and out, right? The public perception is it's the greatest burger, especially for the price. You just can't beat it. And I would say the public is right? There's strength and wisdom, or wisdom and strength, or numbers. There we go. And in and out would be one of those examples. So is Jim Beam in that line, or is it more like Bell's Two-Hearted Ale? For the beer drinkers out there, Bell's is rated the number one beer in the world. Now, it's a good pale ale. It's a good, if you're in the IPA type of beers, it's good. It's solid. Is it the greatest beer in the world? That's crazy talk, right? So absolutely not. So sometimes the public perception or taste test really just goes off of what appeals to the masses, which isn't always necessarily the best. So is this like Bell's Two-Hearted Ale, where it's just kind of good, but just way overrated? Or is this like In and Out, to where I don't know how they do it for a couple bucks giving you a burger that good? Let's see. Let's we'll start off with the Jim Beam since I'm a little more familiar with the 101. And let's see if we're impressed. Good smell. And I forgot to tell you about the wild turkey, but the interesting fact about it, but I'll tell you when I get there. So it doesn't have a sweet aroma, the Jim Beam does here. Kind of a little vanilla, maybe kind of sweet apple scent to it. Oh, it's nice. So a little bit of oak, but it's sweet up front, and then as it kind of goes down, you get that spicy rye kind of flavor there. But definitely a strong vanilla, slight oak, and the finish there, the aftertaste is, I taste that lingering kind of oak and vanilla, a little pepper there on the end too. So, this is good. This is definitely better than Jim Beam, white label. I think there's two under. I can't remember now if there's a Jim Beam white label and a regular Jim Beam. I think Jim Beam is the white label, and then this would be the step up from there. This is definitely a step up from that. The regular Jim Beam, as I remember it, is very, very thin, very weak. And this one doesn't have a real thick flavor to it. It's still a little bit on the thin side, but it's smooth, and the flavor is just what you want it to be. So I think I could see why the public tasting this, it probably appealed to them. Is it the greatest bourbon? No, of course, right? Those who are used to drinking, if you tasted a $3,000 bourbon, you would see the complexity of those bourbons that just aren't there in the Jim Beam. But the Jim Beam, in a certain sense, it is like that good burger. It just has what it needs, or maybe like the IPA example with the bells. It's what you want it to be every day, day in, day out. It's nothing fancy. So I'm putting this one right in between In and Out and Bells. I think it's solid, and it impressed me a little better than I thought it would be. Will it beat my go-to, the 101? Let's see. Drinking them head to head is always a different experience than just drinking them one at a time, days apart. Depends what you ate, depends the smells in the air of that day, the mood, all those things shift. So really drinking them back to back is the way you got to do it if you really want to know what you like, at least in my opinion. So this one has a nice sweet smell too. It's interesting because I don't remember wild turkey having a real sweet smell, but it did smell sweet. And before I forget, the interesting fact here about the 101 is that wild turkey has the longest distiller. He's Jimmy, what's his name? Russell. Jimmy Russell's been distilling for like 60 years. I mean, I remember this stuff as a kid. That was the first thing I ever saw in my house. Open the cabinet. I didn't know what alcohol was, and there it is. I think I took a swig and I spit it out, and I thought it was disgusting, right? And I never wanted to try alcohol again, at least till I got older. But I think the label looks pretty similar too. So not much has changed. Same distiller, I think the same label, but they make what works. Jim Beam's been around for a while too, so I mean, maybe not the distiller, but the brand. So both these are really old, tried and true. So it had a sweet smell, but the flavor is much spicier, even though the rye content's the same. The 101 definitely has more of a kick to it. Definitely does taste a little thicker like I thought it did. You can taste the char, if you will. It really pulls from that oak. But you do get a little bit of the spice and vanilla kind of notes hitting you, and then aftertaste wise, this one really goes up your nostrils, if you will. Like a good wasabi. I'm definitely getting some peppery aftertaste there, a little bit dry. So man, this is tough because they're different, but they're both very, very good, especially for this price point. So the 101 is obviously 101 proof. This is 86 proof, so they're both higher than the normal 80 proof. It's tough to compare a 101 to an 86 as this one is. But I wanted to bring you these two because they're right around the same price point, and they're probably the best ones you're going to find at that price point that are readily available, that you can go anywhere in the country and find them. So that's why I really wanted to do these two tonight. I got to taste them one more time. I think I know which way I'm leaning, but I got to be sure. If you want smooth, if you want something that's non-offensive, and wow, I definitely got a charred oak flavor in that one. So I don't know. I probably should have rinsed. I didn't bring my water cup, but I tasted more of the charred oak the second time in that. But you're not going to be disappointed for the price with the Jim Beam Black. And not only will you not be disappointed, probably nobody that you're drinking bourbon with will be disappointed if you buy this one. Okay? Now, the 101 has much more of a punch to it. So if you're drinking with some girls or with guys that aren't used to drinking bourbon, it might be a little offensive for them. This is tough. One more time, because they're so different, I really want to. I'm going to start this way again. If you like that strong alcohol flavor, the 101's for you. You know what? This is hard for me to say. I was leaning towards the 101 at the beginning, but I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go with the Jim Beam Black. The 101, you're never going to stop being my go-to. I love you, but tonight, Jim Beam Black, you win. Go get a bottle and we'll see you next week.